Next one was Lou at 208 Bachelor Street. I did not, that was for repair, complete system. I sent the corrections to him that he had the septic tank too close to the well, and his leach field was designed for only 330 gallons instead of 440. He did not get back to me and asked Colleen to cancel it. So there's no action required.
Good.
The final one is Rose, and that is at the house that's towards the center of town next to the library, the new library. And it's a complete system replacement. It's a repair, a 3-bedroom house, a high water table, poor soil, limited lot size, and an easement's going to be required because they could not find soil in the back of the house on the property that was even good enough to think about putting a system on. And it turns out that the owner of the whole parcel, and originally that house as well, still owns the rest of the land. She's the one that donated the land for the library.
Yes.
Once again, I did not receive a hard copy for this. We did an original hard copy, but the latest one didn't come in. The review process is complete. It is all fixed up. The action that we would have would be to approve a variance from 5 feet to 4 feet on the water table separation, with Charlie Kanicki being our rep. Also to approve a local regulation, a Granby regulation, that requires 100 feet from the well to the septic tank, and that would be reduced from 100 feet to 70 feet. The state code allows 50 feet. And the action the other action that we would, I'd propose is to approve the application subject to fill regulation, but also, let's see, it's submission of a hard copy. In addition, proof that the easement, which allows construction and maintenance of the SAS, of the leach field, is in fact executed and put on file.
And that's from the owner, from the individual who donated the property for the library. Is that right?
And who originally owned the house and all that land.
How did the original system get approved?
Is probably 50 years old or more. I don't ever remember in fact, I don't even remember anybody living in that house. But yeah. I don't think I was on the board when a system has been approved for that. So certainly we're talking about 50 plus years probably.
I thought you'd been on the board for more than 100.
Yeah, I don't remember that house being built.
Okay.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
So those are my recommendations.
Okay. Well, if you want to go with it, I'll go with you.
Okay. So those are done. Our first appointment is not for another 5 minutes. We can, if we
You've
look
got
at
Ed Berry on right now, and we're already done with him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Ed. How are you?
I'm good, guys. And you?
Good. You're all approved. Is
Oh.
subject to our fill regulation, which means that we require the bottom strip to be inspected by us before they bring any fill on it.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah.
But
You
other
want
than
me-
that,
We're good.
you're done. Have a nice night.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it very much. This is the nicest, fastest meeting I've ever had. So.
Well, it's a pain in the neck. I told you that we spend the time in the beginning and get the review done. So this is just a rubber stamp meeting.
Well, I thank you, gentlemen, very much. And Colleen, thank you so much for your assistance as well. You guys have been great. So I will report that and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.
So we now, in terms of things to sign, I have got, it looks like Jean's timesheet for 48 hours for the last 2 weeks. Are you okay with that? Herb?
Yes, saw that. Yes.
Okay. I've got Colleen's timesheet. We'll see how that works, Colleen, with your first week being a day short, huh?
Mm,
So we'll see how Chris handles that.
right.
But it looks like the second week was 35 hours. And
Yep.
are you okay with that, Herb?
I am.
Okay, so that's approved. And Colleen, what happens is so we don't end up with your signing your own timesheets. I end up to make sure that there's, all this other stuff we're doing, you sign for us, but with the timesheets to make sure everything stays squeaky clean,
Sure.
I sign them and I'll send you a copy of that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
The next thing I have is a schedule of department bills payable. That is for Quill for us, office supplies, stamped envelopes, and Massachusetts Health Board membership. And it totals $341.43. Are you okay with that, Herb?
Yes.
And I am too. So that's approved, Colleen.
Okay,
The next one that I have is let's go a purchase request signature form. And this is for, that's funny. This must be a different, it's really the same thing that we just got, though. Is this just the backup,
postage?
Colleen, for the one that we just had?
yeah, the postage, yeah, we just did that, knowing that I'm gonna have to do the renewal for the licenses.
But that was just in that thing we just approved.
Yeah, we just put that, because we have to send that over, and Steve puts a check with it and he orders it.
Okay, so it's just the backup for that
It's just-
document we approved.
Yes,
Okay, then the next one is schedule of payments to the treasurer. It totals $740, of which 650 of it is the Board of Health and plumber permits. It looks like there's a $90 for a gas permit, and that's it. Are you okay with this, Herb?
I am.
And I am too. So that one is done.
okay.
One of the things before we get a lot further, Herb, I'd like to have Lee here to talk. What time are we? It's quarter
Just
of,
about quarter.
and I'd like it before our 2 restaurant permits, but I guess we can wait. That's 7:15. Herb, I'd like to just talk about ventilation and emergency ventilation regulation that I would propose, but I'd rather Lee be here if we're gonna do that.
I think he should be.
So the next items that I have, so that one is the timesheets are done, the bills to Quill is done. We've got the D-box was done. So we've got certificate of compliance, 2 of those, a well permit. So those are Lee's. Title 5s are Lee's. On COVID issues. Well, we can go quickly on mail. We've got Colleen, something that you could send out that looks like Dollar General asked for a copy of their well permit.
Yes,
So it looks like that's pretty easy. You could just send it out.
I did that, yep.
Okay, that's done.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna do in the terms of letters. Like, we got a copy from the kind of a third party copy of a letter from DEP consider looking at public water supplies. I haven't, maybe we just wait until after he gets back to me, Herb. I left them, they don't work in the office anymore. And I left the phone message and an email just asking. In fact, I copied you in. I think I copied Colleen in, and you, Herb, and Lee, on a note that I just sent to him saying that we were going to discuss this at tonight's meeting. But I guess it's probably going to be germane to both of these restaurant guys that are going to be coming up, because it seems pretty clear that the state is saying the Board of Health doesn't have anything to do with public water supplies. And we'll see if, when I talk to him, whether he's serious about that. But at least he answers the question in terms of something special in the American Legion. So, but I'd rather, yeah,
We have nothing to do with it until there's a problem.
That's right.
And
That's
then,
right.
and then the buck will be passed.
Yeah. So I will, rather than send the letter to them saying we're just confirming that's what we're going to do in the future, if you'd like, I'll just wait till he gets back to us.
All right.
I can do, as long as we're doing the septic system stuff, I will continue looking. I did talk to Sharon Hart, and Sharon gave me the name of it's actually the head of the health department in Northampton that's got her own business on Board of Health issues. And Sharon wasn't sure if they provided anything to do with septic systems. So I'll have to make that call. Sharon does her own reviews, and she also, in terms of doing reviews, tells the engineers that they have to give her 2 weeks. So there was an issue that you brought up, Herb and Colleen. It's worthwhile for you, because the board has said that it would not discuss anything at a Tuesday meeting that had not arrived by noontime on Friday.
Okay,
And we wanted to be very firm. I guess if there's an emergency of something, we would deal with it, but it's got to be, it has to hit the agenda. And Herb sent a note out, and it really, I think it needs to be discussed by us, because it's a policy by the board. And Herb questioned if that's the way, in fact, we were going to be behaving, should we, in fact, be telling the engineers that the design review process has to be completed and all members of the Board of Health have a chance to look at the final design before we vote on it. And Herb, what's your thought on it? I'll tell you right now, I think it's a good idea, but what is your thinking?
Well, I'm actually of two minds about it, Dick. I think if in fact we have gone back and forth with an engineer a number of times, and it's only a question of finalizing a particular point, and everything else, in fact, has been accomplished to the satisfaction of the board, then perhaps we would be more lenient in a situation of that sort. But as I say, I'm of two minds. We do have a policy, you've got to get your material in. And then if we say you don't have to get it all in, the slope will get slippery at some point. So I don't think, however, that it's of a momentous decision-making that, in fact, we have to be hoisted on our own petard about you didn't get it in, and therefore we won't consider it if everything is done except the last little piece, and it had been fully discussed. Everything else had been fully discussed.
Okay, so tonight's would be one that actually could fit into that. You've got
Yes,
Tom Liu, who submitted, all of these designs have been submitted, they've been paid for, they're complete, and
Yes.
then they had to be modified. In
Correct.
Liu's case, the modifications haven't been completed and finalized, versus Cravo, who only was missing a gas baffle on one of his sections of the tank. And all
Correct.
he did is corrected it and it was done.
Exactly. And you don't want to hold that up, for sure.
Okay, then we'll stay going. Then I can accept, we'll keep going the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of COVID, we don't have anybody yet. In terms of COVID issues, as I said, I'll wait for Lee on the ventilation part.
Yeah, I just got into this thing, Dick.
Okay. One of the things that I'm suggesting is, as we look at this COVID thing going wide open, and I don't know if you read, Herb sent out another pretty lengthy article about COVID, but among other things, they keep coming back to this ventilation. And it sure looks like when I talked to the building inspector about ventilation, he actually told me that houses have ventilation requirements, but that the commercial stuff doesn't. So from my standpoint, I'm proposing, while this COVID thing is wild, that we enact an emergency regulation that says that for all permits that are for new or change of use or modified, significant modifications as defined by the building inspector, for all public, commercial, or private buildings that has employees, that we require the minimum air changes of 5 times an hour, as the schools were required and the town buildings are requiring. And that can be with either fresh air or HEPA filters. That's what I propose as an emergency regulation.
Is it 5, Dick, or is it 425?
No, it's 5. It originally was 4 and they moved it to 5.
Okay.
And it's funny because the 4 looks like it came from the kind of funky CDC reg that said you're a contact if you've been close to people for 15 minutes. And that gets you where they backed into 4. Because
Yeah.
they said if you stood there and it's been for an hour and it was changed 4 times, then maybe you were only in that for 15 minutes. And then they said, no, we're going to change it. We're going to call it 5. Get a little better. But short of this, we're going to get into a problem that anybody that comes in can say, you know what, we're not going to put any ventilation in and there's nothing you can do about it.
So how are we going to, in fact, enforce this?
It would be part of the design that the person submitting for the building and the building permit or for our permit would be required to have somebody that's certified say we've gone through this, we've measured the building, this is how many CFM you need, and this is the device that we're using to do it. It's actually a very straightforward measurement.
Are any towns in our vicinity requiring the same sort of thing?
I don't know that, but I can tell you that the state has mandated that all towns end up being eligible for the aid that's coming from the power companies, that they've directed them to provide aid for changing the buildings to do this.
Would it in any way make Granby less competitive for a commercial venture, a new commercial venture?
My guess is it is not. I think that to give you an idea on a smaller kind of building, they end up with probably needing a third of this just for the carbon dioxide dilution for straight safety and breathing. So this is more than that for sure, but it's not. It should not be a big item thing to do this, and it's only. I'm looking at it maybe being only a year that it has to be done.
Well, I certainly hope you're correct.
I know. I knew you were going to say that.
Yes. Well, I think it makes a lot of sense. I just wonder what the reception is going to be and what the pushback is going to be. Let's say that Lee Lalonde at the Center Pharmacy, Lee's on now. Lee Lalonde at the Center Pharmacy decides he wants to make a change in his business. And we say, Lee, you now have to have 5 changes in air in your business for us to approve what you want to do. What do you think about that?
You want the short version or the long version? I
want a
that
true version.
A true version. Okay, the true version is that I'm in a older building, and despite my efforts, we either freeze in the winter or we roast in the summer because it's drafty, poorly insulated, etc. That being said, I would not be terribly opposed to having someone measure what I have to give me a straight answer about what I need. And if my guess is right, the upgrades proposed by National Grid or whoever may also include either that technology or funding towards that goal of using less electricity, using less fossil fuels, and quite possibly to attain that goal, you could find ways to button up any building, including mine. And there are air-to-air exchangers, heat exchangers, which could help you attain that goal and also getting you the changes per hour necessary. I may already be there right now. I may be at 10. I just have no clue.
Yeah.
And my
Let's
door
say
is
it's-
open all the time.
Let's say it's a $5,000 nut to get that assessed.
Then the state of Massachusetts would, I hope, have some type of a way of my accountant getting rid of that $5,000 as a write-off.
This is a town of Granby regulation.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the state
But
is already pushing it.
the state, I think, is saying they want it done, so therefore there must be some accounting version which could be applied for and successfully used as a write-off.
Mhm.
For what it's worth,
And it-
Herb, if you look at what the schools did in the high school, looking at the cafeteria, what they found is that the hood, the exhaust hood, provided way more flow than this was requiring. And so I'm guessing when it comes to restaurants, as soon as they put that hood in, it's going to be just make sure there's a window open or something, and it's going to be more air than they had to worry about. They're probably handling it anyways.
And so do I interpret that that you're suggesting that the center pharmacy become a restaurant as well?
No, I'm just saying we're not going in to force anybody unless they're in the mode that they're going to be changing their use or they're going to be doing a significant upgrade. That's what I would propose.
That
If
makes sense.
If we don't do it, we are going to be, whether it's actually anybody coming along and we're saying, gee, this is healthy stuff to be doing. We've got a runaway train with COVID. We know this is a big help and we don't have any way of enforcing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there something, and I don't know, I'm speaking through my hat now, wasn't there something already with the, not the building inspector, but new construction in general, where I've been told by several people, they have a brand new house, super insulated, super tight, and they have to leave the exhaust fan in the bathroom is on continually.
Well, that's what the building inspector told me. He said the houses are already taking this into account. They know it's required for safety living in your house, but he said they're behind on these commercial establishments. He says there's nothing for him to go on except when he's dealing with houses.
And that
But it
being
is coming.
said, I think you're 100% correct on that it is coming. And it would also, in my small way of thinking, if I was going out to wherever, let's pick on Food 101 in South Hadley for lack of a alternative, and I knew that they were meeting the minimum air exchange, that would give me an extra sense of it's okay to do this routine, knowing that at least the air is moving and not it's stagnant, and therefore the bacteria count would be less in that particular room that I'm in compared to, let's say, the old Granby Cafe, who not so much.
Yeah. So are we at a spot that we're going to vote on this or not?
Why don't you state your motion again?
My motion was that for all public, commercial, or private buildings that are new or significantly modified, the private buildings that have employees and specifically the employee occupied areas would be required to have a minimum air change of 5 air changes per hour that would be provided by either fresh outside air or HEPA filtration.
Well, HEPA filtration doesn't provide air exchanges.
Oh, but it's ASHRAE is saying that is an allowable alternative.
I'm just questioning the way you stated it. So you're saying either by 5 air exchanges or by HEPA filtration.
Or 5 air changes through the HEPA filtration. So it's 5 air changes, and they come from either outside fresh air or through a HEPA filter.
But through a HEPA filter, could you only have 2 air exchanges?
No, it has to still be the 5. That's
So-
the key.
So the HEPA filter is an additional way to remove virus and other particulate matter from the air.
Right. It's as it turns
In
out,
addition,
it wouldn't be, you'd find out that it's not something that would be a preferred way to do it by the engineer. But in a case like with the high school where you can't, it's prohibitively expensive to do it with fresh air, then you wouldn't do it that way. But a new construction, you'd almost always do it with fresh air.
yes.
So that would be my proposal.
Well, with the caveat that I think that needs to be wordsmithed a bit, I could second it.
Okay. Then how about you, Lee? Well, let's vote on it.
All right, I would vote to go forward with this motion.
And I would too. And you, Herb?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Philippe is sitting there patiently waiting. Are you on board, Philippe?
I am here.
Okay, you are approved, subject to our regulations on fill, which you've got written down anyways, that said we have to inspect this. We inspect the strip before you put the sand in.
Absolutely. Yep.
But you're all done.
Okay, great.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. That was easy. Thank you.
Good night.
Our next appointment is, I don't see Mike there yet.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm having a little video trouble, but I am here.
Okay, Mike, you are also approved. You've got the restrictions, so you've got an approved variance from 5 feet to 4 feet. You've got an approved Granby regulation, a variance to Granby regs for 100 feet down to 70 feet from well to the septic tank. You've got an approved application subject to our fill regulations, submission of a hard copy of the drawing to the board, and a submission of the executed construction maintenance easement.
Understood.
So with that, you're done with us.
All right. Thank you, sir. I will get those to you as they are available.
Okay, have a good night.
Thanks. You too. Thank you.
Lee, as long as we're, let's see, our next appointment is at 7:15. Can you give us your report on certificates of compliances and Title V's?
Sure. I mean, everything that I went through, I went to that well on South Street. That was plenty of separation there. The 208 Bachelor, that was a Title V, and that's still, I think, we're still working that through.
Yeah, 208 was put on hold for tonight. It's not the design isn't approved.
Okay.
So what I've got here is certificate of compliance for 113 South Street, certificate of compliance for 69 West Street, well permit for 67 South Street. And then we've got Title V for 131 New Ludlow Road, 121 Amherst, and 18 Green Meadow.
Correct. Yeah. Green Meadow was a reinspect after occupancy. All the aforementioned addresses are all good to go at this point.
Okay, so are we going to approve all of those, Herb?
If Lee says they're ready to approve, yes.
Okay, me too. So those are all done. So our next appointment is going to be something special. Do we have people here from something special?
Yes, we're here.
Hello.
Okay, what we have is we've got 10 minutes for you. Can you tell us what you're looking for from us tonight?
We're looking for some clarification on the pieces that you need left to approve the cafe. We did have the building inspector here, and we also had the fire department as well.
Okay, so they should be able to give us a report on that. Ventilation. Oh, we did get a letter, or we got it wasn't sent to us directly, but it was from someone that I think it was hired by you, but it's also from the state that says they're in charge of the public water supply and they take care of everything associated with it, not the Board of Health. So that you're not required from us. And
I did just want to, there was, I think, a concern from the board about the well being undersized. So I just wanted to draw attention. That's probably, or I'm sorry, the septic. That was addressed in the letter as well. So have your concerns been addressed there?
no, what happened, that one was specific, that you need an engineer, that you sent us something that said that was set up for 1,000 gallons a day for the and that's what you provided to us.
Yes.
And the state code for restaurants are 45, as I recall, 35 gallons a seat, I think. But that's not ours. That's it's a change of use for the septic system. You have to say, this is what our new use is going to be. And an engineer has to say, I've studied that and the system is capable of supporting the new use. That the Board of Health does not do that engineering. That would be.
But you do need that engineering report is what I'm asking.
Sure, because it's a change of use on the septic system. And the code says that too. When you change the use of it, it's the same if you were going to put 2 bedrooms on your house. You'd have to do the same thing.
Okay. But that I think is what that letter was getting at, is when we reached out to Douglas Payne. He said that there's really the gallons per unit hasn't changed at all. even though we're changing from a catering company to a restaurant, the
But Doug
estimated.
is saying he's not the one that said how many gallons. He just said the Board of Health isn't involved with your well. And that's what the Board of Health has said, that it's not. So we're not having that requirement. Although, Herb, you also indicated a question that we have not seen the engineering, the actual engineering drawings associated with this proposal. We have not seen those.
Okay, so how is it what you need different than what we've already submitted?
Herb, you want to go after that one?
You mean the hand sketches that you submitted?
No, there is a septic plan that we submitted. Let me bring it up on my computer here. Okay, so there's not a new space. That is all. Do you need a seating plan? Is that what you need?
No, your kitchen and the design of the kitchen. What we saw was a hand-drawn set of plans.
So we've submitted a floor plan that was an engineering plan. And what we included in that was we did include the measurements of all of the equipment in there as well.
Have we seen that?
That was submitted after the last time that you asked us that you needed an actual floor plan, or I'm sorry, an actual engineered plan instead of the hand-drawn one. So we submitted again what the building plan was back in.
I want to say,
A month ago, I'm guessing.
I think it was the end of August.
Yeah.
No, I guarantee you it wasn't the end of August. We were talking about, I saw something from an engineer, but about a month ago.
Okay.
Let's make sure, Colleen, can you get us a copy of that so we can look at that tomorrow?
Sure, I'll look. Yep, I'll look for it tomorrow.
The ventilation you just heard,
So we had the building inspector come in, and I mean, this might be along the same lines as you were discussing earlier. But he said that with the heating system that we have in here, he's not sure how to really designate what you want for the air change flow.
and that's why we just specified. It is 5 air changes an hour.
Right, but there's no way for him to determine that, he's saying.
Well, that's not his job. It's an engineer's job to do that. So that you have to look at that. And that's where I suggested that the place that I would start, since I suspect that the hood does everything you need, is I would go right to the hood people, and I can tell you how many CFM that hood draws, and then you can you measure the volume of your area, and you decide whether that many CFM changes that air 5 times in an hour. It's a really simple thing. My guess is the hood guy would probably just do that for you free. But
Okay, we'll reach out to him.
yeah, I think
But that really has nothing to do with also in the questions that we got was asking us about our heating system. Do you have any other follow-up questions there?
I didn't ask you the question. I'm the one that's been dealing with ventilation, and really, I don't really care about the heating system. I care about how clean that air is that people are going to be breathing. That's heating before you're done, someone will have to check the heating, because once you have the air going through, you have to decide if you've got enough heat or cooling to handle it. But I'm guessing if you've run the hood and it runs, you probably already have the right amount of heat, the right amount of cooling. But it's an engineered thing that you have to deal with.
We also had a question about the location of the hand washing sink in your kitchen.
Yep, so we've included a new hand washing sink so that it is closer. We did go ahead and look at the food code, and the food code, there's no specific amount of space. It actually defers to you, the Board of Health, to decide what is an appropriate, distance from the food prepping area. So we went ahead and included where you suggested in the last meeting. So there is an additional hand washing sink that's included in the last engineering plans that we sent you.
So we'll get a copy of that. Maybe you're all set with that.
Yeah, I just don't remember seeing that. I'm sorry.
I do remember seeing a drawing. In fact, I think it was made by Dave Carmen.
Yes, that's correct.
So there is definitely one of those floating around.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
So we'll get Colleen to get that. And you're going to deal with the ventilation. You're going to deal with, now did the building inspector tell you you don't need any kind of permits to change what you're trying to do? Is he going to send something to you or so it should be, if he's dealing with you, he should be giving you something saying that you don't need anything or you do need something.
Okay, so I'm just gonna let Barry to answer.
Hi, guys. He suggested 3 items. He suggested a push bar for our side door, which we're gonna do. There is some sheetrock in the kitchen that's not fully sheetrock. He would like that completed. And there's one more thing.
The hood inspection.
Oh, the hood inspection. So we'll work on that hood and we'll get the airflow and all that for you, the engineering report.
And someplace you have to, Barry, you've got to give us something. But when I talked to the building inspector, because I didn't know what I was talking about,
Okay,
he said that you have to ask him if he needs a permit and that the fire department ends up having, so he's got to be telling you, you don't need a permit or you do need a permit, whatever he tells you, and you've got to let us know. And the fire department has to say what you need or you don't need for fire protection there.
okay. I believe he said that he was gonna contact you and let you know what he said. And I believe he's gonna contact us in writing and let us know what we have to do, and we're gonna do it.
Okay, you have to be the one that takes the lead. You have to be the guy that, do not assume that the building inspector is going to be the person that communicates for you. So
Okay.
you're the one that has to hand us those documents from both of those departments.
Okay,
So it's clear. But it
Okay.
sounds like you may be all set.
Yeah, they've both the fire department and the building inspector have been here. So we'll just follow up with them to get in writing for you what you need.
Okay, so we're done.
Thank
We're
you.
all set. Thank you.
I just
right.
had one more follow-up question, beyond these things. Is it possible, just to get an idea of what the time frame looks like from here? And what other considerations we should be thinking about now to prepare for you?
Well, one concern I have, and I could be wrong because I'm not up on the food code right now, but when you say sheetrock in the kitchen,
fire sheetrock.
He's gonna get back to us on that.
right, but I mean, the code used to be very specific about the cleaning capabilities of all surfaces,
Correct.
floor, wall, ceiling.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I don't know that sheetrock with a coat of paint meets that standard.
So the food code does say exactly what you just said. It's not actually too specific, but it just says that it needs to be a cleanable surface, and that it's smooth and it doesn't have, it's not a porous surface. So we'll take a look at that. But the fire the inspector was going to get back to us on whether or not we actually needed that sheetrock. But we'll express the concern that you brought up to him as well.
Thank you.
So in terms of the timing, once we have these missing pieces, we don't have waiting periods, right?
No.
Oh, so we should be able to move.
Okay, so we'll get you in writing, the building inspector and the fire inspector, the airflow changes for the hood, and then the engineering report.
It's going to be the airflow changes for the building. The hood is the one that is likely generating the volume, but someone has to calculate it, air changes per hour for the actual eating spaces.
Okay. Okay, and then the last piece is the engineer report for the septic use, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we've got to move on.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Now our next item is the American Legion. Do we have someone here?
Yeah, this is Jeff Rule from the Granby American Legion. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
We've got 10 minutes for you. And can you tell us what you're looking for from us?
Yeah, so after our last meeting with you, we had some recommendations. We did have the Board of Health Inspector, Lyndon, has stopped over and gave a couple of recommendations. One was for a hand wash sink, and the other recommendation was to label our sinks. Those have both been complied with. We also had the fire department come by and told us to look at our stove, the gas stove that is shut off. We're working on getting something in writing stating that they're good with that. On the 27th, the fire department and the building inspector stopped by to talk to us about some things they need. And let's see. We did meet about the means of egress, and we've got someone coming by to look at those to make sure those are up to code. And we'll be following up on that also. So I did listen to this meeting earlier about the 5 air exchanges. So we'll obviously have to get that checked before we press forward.
Jeff, am I right in thinking the fire department wanted your hood repaired or replaced or something like that?
We are not going to be using that hood because we're only using small appliances like air fryers. So we're not using the stove or the griddle or anything in that part of the kitchen.
Okay, but as per our earlier conversations, that hood could be your ticket to a lot of headaches going away. By giving you the air exchanger you need, really simple and really cheap.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking into that, Lee, to see if it probably kills 2 birds with 1 stone. But we're definitely looking into that.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about right now, Jeff. That it's hopefully as you guys progress and your kitchen expands, you're going to be looking for that hood to operate anyway. So if that hood solves the problem with the fire department and your 5 air exchanges per hour, then it's
showing where each table would be located, 6 feet apart, how many chairs per table.
Yeah, that's the thing by not working with going from what Herb just said. He's not going to push you to go to an architect, but that's a long way away from saying this is a scale drawings with material of construction that I would expect you would see outlets on it. You'd see, the light locations, the statement.
Well, with all due respect, what does that have to do with what we're talking about here? We're talking about placement of the bodies, not outlets and lights and stuff. Well, you guys want to know how far the seats are going to be apart to follow the COVID code, which we can do that, and I have measured it out.
No, you're operating a restaurant, and
right.
that's not the same as just saying it's COVID. You're changing. You're making a restaurant, and you know what? since things are public record, an easy way to probably start is since all the things that the Berniers have submitted are all public record, you ought to take a look at what we're asking the Berniers to do and what they have in fact done, and that's a good model.
Right, I understand that, but they're doing a restaurant, which we are applying for a restaurant license, and it's not exactly the same thing. They're preparing dinners and food, which I understand it's totally different from what we're going to do.
Wow.
Well, I understand things should be equal to all different businesses. I understand that part of it, but I don't see how we can exactly follow their model when ours is a different structure and different type of business versus what theirs is.
Yeah, we're down to say, well, they're selling hamburgers and you're going to sell hot dogs, so there should be different rules. And from my standpoint, what's happening, we're supposed to be looking out for the health of your customers and the safety. And unfortunately, this is we've gone to your 10 minutes, and in the future we're going to have to get what you want to cover. But we spent 40 minutes the last time saying this exact stuff, and you just come back and you keep saying, well, we don't want to do that.
We never said we didn't want to do that.
Hey,
Well,
I'll take over here, Steve. This is Jeff Rule. So we're going to do all that. We'll head down and get a copy of what the Berniers are doing as part of public record. We'll accomplish the drawings. We'll get back with the fire inspector to make sure we're good there, and then we'll get back with the board. We'll contact
That's
you.
great. That's terrific.
Fantastic.
Terrific.
All right.
That is great. And I'm not being
All right.
sarcastic saying that. I truly believe it. And we're going to be off to the races. We're going to get these two operations running nicely. They're going to be an asset to the town and to you guys. And you're going to make more money by having a great place.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We appreciate the help. The Legion appreciates it. And if you don't have anything else for us, we're going to sign off.
Okay.
Great.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.
So now we've got Andrew Parker. Yes, we do.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, Andrew.
Colleen, how are you? Sorry.
Hi, good, thanks.
So I apologize for the late notice for the revised red line plan that went out. I would appreciate any feedback that the board has on that as we move closer to the Thanksgiving break and departure and reentry. But for tonight, I'd spoken to Dick briefly, and I'd like to discuss, if possible, the opening plan and the ventilation plan for the gymnasium and the potential return of some indoor sports. And I'd also like to talk to you about field trips and personal care and personal necessity trips for some of our boarding students who are on campus and are very much in a controlled environment, but are not able to really leave for anything.
I'd
Okay.
like, before you go into that, I'll throw something on the table just for
Sure.
a second. I'm going to avoid the gym. That one I think we need to discuss, but I'm just thinking from a board standpoint. I don't think that as long as your students are behaving in accordance with state laws and regulations and guidelines, I don't think the Board of Health should be micromanaging how you bring your 4 children that you're looking at to the mall.
Very well. I appreciate that.
That's I'm just laying it on the table. That's for Lee and Herb to jump all over.
It sounds like Lee has something to say.
Not me. Oh, I totally appreciate the comment.
Herb, what do you think about it?
Well, I don't intend to micromanage their school. I want their students to be safe. I want their employees to be safe. I want any visitors to be safe. But exactly how they accomplish that, if they do it within the guidelines that have been established, I'm not going to tell them that they can't do that.
So Andrew, that's a whole bunch of the things you just asked for.
Thank you.
If you go and now let's look at the gym, and why don't you gave a proposal, but essentially what you wrote, at least that I read, is that you intend that this particular gym has got fresh air intake and outlet. You intend to open the doors and run exhaust fans. And the gym, according to your ASHRAE certified engineer, is capable of safely supporting 25 occupants. And you are proposing to have the doors open, have the ventilation system running, and not exceed 25 occupants at any point for volleyball and actually in anything, but you are proposing to do volleyball in there and only basically one-on-one kind of basketball until MIAA comes up with new regulations. Is that correct?
2-on-2.
Or 2-on-2?
Well, it's one-on-one, but on either side of the court. So 4 people total, but we'd only have one-on-one on the north side and one-on-one on the south side.
Oh,
and I have gotten a hold of the Davies, and I've gone over our ventilation capacity with them. And I can also tell you, Dick, that we have a little over 194,000 cubic feet, and we have 18,500 CFM for ventilation capacity. So we're looking at about 1.1 million CFM for mechanical ventilation capacity without the use of HEPA filters in the main gym building. So we're at actually a little over, we're about 5.5 air changes an hour.
Well, my feeling would be that proposal that they're going, and they're also on top of using going in there, the volleyball is going to be with masks, and everybody in the gym is going to have masks. My feeling is it's a modest use with a system that's designed to handle it. Urban Lee, what are you thinking?
It sounds as though they got the numbers they need right away.
I do want to qualify that statement, and I do want to tell you that the system that the gym was built with is 12,000 CFM. The additional 6,500 CFM would come from 4 commercial carpet blowers, the air mover units.
Carpet blower? What is a carpet blower?
Those are the floor-mounted units that you'll see. They're portable air handlers, essentially. You'd see them drying out carpets after steaming. But that was recommended by our ASHRAE certified engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly meets our 5 air changes.
It exceeds our 5 air changes.
It does. And they're not filling the space up with fans. I don't mean spectator fans, not floor fans. I think we should just allow the thing as proposed.
Can I just ask a question? With those carpet fan type of things, I'm really naive about this whole thing. But how does just that air movement, how does anybody know that it's being replaced? In other words, the movement of the air is exiting the room and there's other air replacing it. You know what I mean?
In
Rather
the
than being
physical
efficient.
world, if it goes up, if it goes out, something goes in. Otherwise, the building collapses.
There is a makeup air system, and there's also a HEP vent at the roof.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's not the real deal. It just sounds too good to be true, too easy to work. You know what I mean?
Somebody's got to heat the stuff. That's the problem. That's where you don't get a free ride.
That is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
How many sites actually get tested when these measurements are made? Where is the measurement made?
Typically it would be at your openings, because those are the spots they're the ones that someplace near the fan outlet or near the fan inlet is where you should be doing. They can do it in ducts, but you want to do it where you can actually measure the airflow.
Right, and I'm not trying to denigrate the information or the data or what's been done, but I really wonder about sampling airs when you're talking about a giant gym and what's happening in one place may or may not be what's happening in another place within that gym, because we can't sample throughout the structure, throughout the space. So we take a reading and we assume that it is a reading that reflects the entire space, but I wonder whether that's true.
I will say it is a clear span space that's got 4 exhaust inlets mounted on the ceiling equidistant from each other. So I would suspect that you are correct in an oddly shaped space, but I'd also suspect that in our situation, we'll have more movement from the outside edges, because that's where the portable carpet fans are going to be located. But I think that with the 12,000 CFM main distribution, that it would be otherwise pretty evenly distributed throughout the gym. And I'm sure Dick can speak better to that than I can.
Yeah, without a distribution system, Herb is exactly right. That you can look, though, if you're basically, if you read about what the airplanes are doing, where they're blowing air in the top and sucking air out the bottom, that's what they're attempting to do, is mix that air. And in the gym, if you're blowing fresh air in low, it's obviously going out the roof. And what Herb is saying is, without a stirring system in there, you don't necessarily know it's perfectly mixed. But short of, that the floor carpet fans are going to blow in pretty far, and they are going to stir stuff up. So yeah, it would, for sure, a big empty box is hard to say is mixed without, big ceiling fans and mixing things.
Correct.
So
linear flows and laminar flows.
That's right.
Turbulent flows. I mean, all of these things, I'm sure, are taking place. And I'm not saying that to be argumentative here, but I think we really are taking a lot of this with a grain of something, a grain of wind, because we can't understand what's happening throughout the whole structure.
No, without studying it.
I think we ought to let them go ahead.
What do you think, Lee? I can support this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm in favor of going forward. I was just trying to put my head around what seems to be a simplistic yet necessary solution to the problem. But I guess it's no different than the hood range would be in a local restaurant that by simply turning on that fan, you need to have it on anyway. It solves all your problems. So it's the cheapest, smartest way to do the solution.
Yeah, but as Herb saying though, it's a lot easier when you have a long flat box that you can say at one end I'm sucking out of it, and at the peripheral areas you put spots where it goes in, and you say, okay, we can all kind of tell it comes in on the sides, whips through the middle of it, and goes right out through the exhaust duct, as compared with, taking a big cardboard box and you suck a little out of the top of it and have a couple little holes in the bottom and thinks that everything inside that big box is mixed, and it's not. It is absolutely not. So, but anyways, I think you're talking about a pretty small use. You're talking about a 25 people in an airspace, with, and very different than what the high school is dealing with, where they have zero fresh air. And so this is a different thing. And it's probably a much smaller building besides that.
Yes.
So it looks like we've got that. You've still got, you're going to come back to us. I'm still scared stiff of what's happening at Thanksgiving, but it sounds like, Andrew, that you've got all the things you were trying to get tonight. It looks like you got.
Okay. I will update our red line with our internal procedures for tracing and interviews for the return from Thanksgiving, and I will get that out to the board for your consideration.
So I guess we are done.
Thank you all for your attention. I appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good night.
You as well.
And my only other thing, I'll continue with looking for someone to review drawings for septic systems. When I talked to Lee before you got on, I did talk to what's her name from South Hadley? Sharon Hart.
Yeah.
And she's actually doing that, and I believe she's a nurse, but she's been around for a ton of time. She's actually doing the septic system reviews herself. She tries to catch most of what's wrong. And she also relies on, when we talk it through, she relies on the installers to be catching little things. And but she doesn't have many of them. She said that the town is sewered for the most part, and they have septic systems near the river and near the mountains. So when I told her that we end up with 3, 6, 10, or 12 every 2 weeks, she said, "Oh my God." So I will continue to. She gave me a list of about 4 people that might do reviews, and I'll go forward. And I did try to get in touch with Gary Brome of Belgertown, the Chris Martin's equivalent, and he did not return my call. I will go after that. We have down here also on complaints. Colleen, do you know if Gene was able to set up a trip for us to take a look at the fill that was going into the Granby bow and gun?
I don't think she did.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm trying to, no, I don't. I'll have to check with her. I'll ask her tomorrow.
We were
On my
told,
other COVID item,
we were
uh,
told that there was going to be an event out at Granby, Bow and Gun, last Saturday. And I went out to observe it, and there was nothing going on there. So we were given bad information.
two issues other also from on the COVID front. The school, Nancy actually asked three things. One was the use of a shield in lieu of a mask. It looks like, as I read, Herb's response was the same as my response, was the same as Dr. Tom's response, saying use masks and follow the policy of the school. The next one was one that Nancy had asked about sports and what happens if the town turns red, which is going to turn on Thursday. We're going to see that it turns red. And their proposal was to keep going without, I think, without playing competitive games once we turned red. However, when I looked at Desi seemed to be saying that they were given 3 weeks, 3 consecutive weeks of red before the school was going to be forced to go to all remote. But if that looked like the action point, everybody probably ought to give some thought, because at least there is some wiggle room in there, in that the Board of Health can actually intervene. And just, I can get out a new chart, a couple new charts, but for sure we're red on Thursday. We're 1 case away. If we get 1 case between now and Sunday morning, or actually Saturday night, we will be red for the 2nd week. And I haven't looked out to look at the 3rd week yet. And
but we also know that this is not widespread COVID invading our community. At least we don't know that it is. We know that it's localized right now.
what I'll do, Herb, if you want, and I was going to do it anyways, my spreadsheet, not my color report spreadsheet, but my analysis spreadsheet is also tracking if I only give 1 case per household.
Right. Okay.
And that, I'll get that out. When I looked at it, it looked like, I'm not sure, maybe saw 1 or 2 red days, but the rest looked like they were yellow and green. So let me get that out to everybody so we can get a handle on whether we think this is widespread or not.
Yes. I think that would be a good idea, because right now it doesn't appear to be widespread, although I just have nothing positive in terms of feelings about how this may explode. This whole thing may explode throughout the state and the Pioneer Valley. It's going to get worse. We know that. It's going to get worse.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Sharon did tell me that she's seen it in South Hadley. She did tell me also that South Hadley treatment plant is measuring it in the effluent, and they are seeing it go up. And
they're seeing what in the effluent?
They're seeing the COVID. The COVID is actually a leading indicator, and the COVID in the effluent is leading.
Yeah.
And she's seen it goes up, and I've had a sister-in-law that works in the Chicopee treatment plant, and she's hearing from other treatment plants saying that they were observing numbers that were high in the spring and the early summer and dropped way down, and now
Yeah.
seeing it climb up dramatically. So
Yeah.
regardless of the theories that are saying this is all test related, it's not test related. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
So I'll get that out, and I will also find out from Chris Martin if we are in fact going to be doing our robocall. I'll go after that tomorrow for Halloween.
Yeah. Sounds good.
What else do we have? It looks like the end of my list.
Well, just a comment that no one asked me for regarding this review of these plans, septic plans. Is this something that you've been doing these things, Dick, for 120 years? Do you want to do them? Can you do them and be hired by the board? I mean, to me, you're the natural fit in this scheme, but I don't know if you have any interest in doing it or et cetera.
I don't know that. It's certainly, if you said it's a job that I'm going to take and the board hires me as if it's an inspection, that it probably fits into what we could do. But I think what it's not doing is it's not setting us up, the town up, to be in a position that if I'm not doing it, what does the town do? And I think it probably is our responsibility to at least investigate a system that if it's you and Herb and Colleen that are left, if she comes back and lives in Granby, or whoever, you and Herb and Larry Jones down the street, and say, hey, there's no one that's going to be doing this, but someone has to. And so I think I ought to at least investigate whether there's an out here.
I would personally not be in favor of hiring you, Mr. Bombardier. With the greatest possible personal respect, I think we've got to think about years down the road. So I think, just as you've stated, we've got to look at the long term of this.
Yeah. So at least let me keep going and find out where I could go. I'm concerned. The two general approaches. It looks like Bobby Sheehan and Sharon came up with the same thing, saying, "Oh, why don't you look at Charlie Kanicki?" And Sharon gave me the name of another retired guy, and I'm not sure that approach does much better than using me until I'm cooked or dead. I guess cooked one way or the other. They probably, before they spread me, they'll cook me. But
I would also add, as Lee did, with the greatest possible personal respect, I think you would be as good as any person we could find, if not better, but I still think we ought to find an outside firm that will do this for perhaps the next decade.
that's what I'm thinking. So it would seem like the most stable way to do it. And I don't know that I could do it. Certainly if we had an engineering firm that had 10 engineers, a tie and bond, for instance, that you said, if these guys are willing to do this for $100 a review or whatever it is, and you just say, okay, if two of their engineers quit, there'll be two more that follow them up, and it it would be a nice, stable, robust system. But let me just keep doing some searching. And I'll report back.
I move we adjourn.
I do too. It's
I have
8:03. And
I have a
it's,
quick question.
see, she's a brand new and she's already doing what
No, that's
she
Nancy.
does.
Oh,
Sorry,
there's
it's
that
Nancy.
Allison.
Oh, it's Nancy.
Not me.
So-
I was blaming Colleen. Sorry,
Not me
Nancy.
this time.
Sorry, I just, Ally's asking clarification. So the kids can practice as long as they're not going to travel or compete right now. Is that correct?
I think that's what we
Yeah.
just said.
Yes.
Okay. We just wanted to clarify because it was confusing that you guys went into the grids and talking about other things. So we just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Wear their masks, try to distance, be sensible. Yes.
Okay. They've been
Ally,
doing a good job.
you're supposed to be getting back, the GAA and you are supposed to get back to the Board of Health that we had a complaint that came through the state that said that, and we can't tell whether it's GAA girls soccer or yours. And Carol said you guys would do an investigation and see if that there was anything in that, behind that, and the GAA was supposed to get back to. I'll have to get in touch with them because they were going to look at their games this weekend and see if there was merit to the complaint.
Yeah, I certainly did look into it. I sent the 3 live streams recordings of the games that we had. Between additional staffing, in my personal opinion, the email was very vague and it almost seemed as if it was written from someone who had not stepped foot on our facilities at all.
Yeah,
So,
and it wasn't signed. It didn't go through us. It went through the state. So anyways, Herb wants to go. I want to go. I just wanted to remind you that you got to send us something in writing saying you looked at it. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
So next meeting is 2 weeks from now.